A tragic food poisoning case that's left a young girl brain damaged and in a wheelchair and has cost a fast food giant $8 million to compensate her family. A contaminated KFC chicken wrap was ruled to have caused Monica Saman's lifelong disability. The case highlighting just how serious food poisoning can be.
Too hard if any disabled like Monica to need care. Night and the morning and afternoon and 24 hours. Monica, she need care.
I have represented many clients who have been injured, who have become sick, who have required hospitalization or medical treatment because of food poisoning. I think the most important thing in a food poisoning case is documentation. Unfortunately, many of these cases are misdiagnosed as what we call stomach flu, and there have been studies that show that in most cases that so-called stomach flus are really some form of food poisoning. When you go to a restaurant and eat, and anywhere from 2 hours to 48 hours later, you experience nausea, which can be accompanied by stomach cramps, vomiting, diarrhea, things of this nature, then I think that the first diagnosis should be food poisoning. Unfortunately, very often there's no way to prove directly that the particular food or meal that you ate caused poisoning if the sickness is an extended period of time later. Fortunately, in some of my cases, we have been able to get the Department of Health involved, and even though we could not prove that a particular food or a meal caused the client to become sick, the Department of Health has established that there were unsafe food handling practices and food storage practices at a restaurant, and therefore the violations have issued, and this puts a lot of pressure on the insurance company for the restaurant company to settle the case. I had one very large case, actually it was two cases, but they occurred on the same evening, which occurred at a Chinese restaurant. There were about 100 people that were eating at a banquet for a child's first birthday, which is a big thing in the Chinese culture. And at the same time, in the same restaurant, an engagement party was going on with about 50 people at another area of the restaurant. Later on that night and the next day, dozens of the participants in both of these banquets, which were separate, became ill. Several of them had to go to the hospital, and 2 or 3 of them were hospitalized for up to a week. A very severe sickness. Luckily, the one client who came to me first told me that he had reported the matter to the Department of Health. He was very on the ball on this, and the Department of Health went within 48 hours. They inspected the restaurant. They found that there were 2 major violations. The first being that food was being stored at unsafe temperatures, which allows bacteria to grow, and the other one was that they were cutting raw food on the same surface as cooked food. So what they would do is they'd cut raw food to cook, and then other meals that were cooked that needed to be chopped up, they'd chop them on the same wooden or ceramic surface, and then they would serve the meals, and of course they were contaminated. So because so many people were ill, and the fact that there were these violations, there were no questions that the incident had been caused by either unsafe food temperatures or cross-contaminations of cooked and uncooked food. We were able to resolve those cases for the high 6 figures, more than $500,000 for all of the cases put together, which is quite a bit for food poisoning, which doesn't involve death. I have also had cases that involve stores that have sold food at that is stored at unsafe temperatures, and which has caused sickness as well. The first thing to do if you suspect food poisoning is to call the Department of Health. So they can go out and investigate. In all cases, they will investigate. But if you do this promptly enough, then they can find violations that may have caused your particular illness. The other thing is, if you've taken food to go and you've become sick and it is the meal that you've eaten, store that food in the refrigerator and give it to the health department so they can test it. Lastly, if you have to go to the hospital, if you're sick enough, I suggest that you do go to the hospital to document the fact that you are sick, because if you come to my office and it's a week or so later and you tell me that you were very ill but you toughed it out and you did not go to the doctor, well, there's not much evidence to document the fact that you were ill. So you should go to the emergency room if you do feel these types of nausea or vomiting or diarrhea or these types of symptoms, and the doctor can therefore possibly make a diagnosis. You should make sure you tell him that you recently ate what you ate and that you became ill soon thereafter, and hopefully he will document on the emergency room records that he believes it is food poisoning.